All right, Ken, back to you. We've just come through a political season here, and who to vote for president was determined, obviously. But maybe we think about a scenario that would maybe help us to walk through some of these filters we've been talking about. So the situation would be you have two people to vote for. One's a gay Republican, the one's a straight Democrat. Mm-hmm. How would we think through this from a biblical truth and love standpoint, if at all?
So just because one is a Republican and one is a Democrat doesn't necessarily tell me anything about their particular political view. I think this is going to be, in my opinion, a matter of conscience. It's going to boil down to a matter of conscience. I do believe it can go beyond that, but it just depends on the circumstance. So this is one of those, and a lot of people don't like it, but I'm just going to say it depends. I believe that if a candidate is a conservative, meaning that that person's politically conservative, is going to consider freedom, liberty, economic freedom as a value, and that person happens to be homosexual, but they keep his or her homosexuality relatively private, doesn't overtly advocate for what we call the homosexual agenda. This person is a lesser evil, if you will, than a person who's a flat out leftist, but straight, right? A leftist is going to be advocating policies that do far more damage to the economy, the culture, the security of the country. Those are things we have to think about as well. And so if it comes down to a choice between the lesser of two evils.
And it always does.
It always usually does, because no one is not evil, right? We all have that. I am going to choose the one that is going to best represent the multiple values that I have from a political candidate. And so I'm going to think about the economy, I'm going to think about culture, and I'm going to think about security and defense and all of those things. And so I may have to hold my nose and vote for a person that I don't agree with on a particular issue or place where they are in their own life. For example, Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for that over the opposition because the opposition represents a far worse choice.
Yeah. So quality over person then? Is that what you're really saying?
It depends.
Okay.
If that person is, and let's say I know them personally, and I know that they do not have any integrity, then no, it would be person because I know that person. And that's been the case. I've known several politicians in my career. I had the opportunity to get to know a lot of politicians, and some of them were really solid, good people that had a D next to their name, and others were snakes in the grass with an R next to their name. And you just get to know them and you know who they are. So that would be personal. But most of the time we don't know these candidates. We just have what they have on their website or whatever.
So you would say, though, the lens, if we're thinking attend, the idea of attend, approve, or advocate, this is firmly entrenched in the attend because you're not approving of everything. You can't.
Right.
Because and you certainly wouldn't, you're not advocating, you're not signed up going door to door. So there's a sense that you're involved. You're simply that first level at this.
If I do decide to go door to door for that Republican who is a homosexual, that would be a tough decision to make. But if I were faced with Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders on the other side, and I have to, it's like when Mitt Romney was running. He's Mormon.
Let's use Jimmy Carter.
Let's
use Jimmy Carter because I think he's even better because
I didn't vote for the guy. I was too young.
Well,
really?
Okay. Well, back.
you look so much older, Ken.
I was in college at the time.
The first presidential election I voted in was 1980, which was between Carter and Reagan.
Ran in 76 as
well.
But
then he ran into re-election.
I was too young. I was only
in 76, but you weren't in 80, right?
No, I didn't vote for him in 80.
He voted when he was 14.
Everyone voted for Reagan.
But I think the point is that the people who said Carter's a Christian, because he espoused being a Christian, let's vote for him.
Right.
The problem is he was horrific as far as his ability to actually lead in policy. Mm-hmm. So it's not a monolithic thing you've got to engage, but I think most of the time it lives at an intend level. You're involved. lesser of two evils. And so there are certainly times in which the platform, Democratic platform, you go, this is so incredibly evil. The person's aligned with it. So now even if they're a good leader, I can't. And that's something that people of good conscience and sincere people who are following Christ need to work out. But I think we should push and pull on that as Christians, but recognize just because I have voted for a person doesn't mean I'm advocating for their entire worldview.
And the whole thing about party platforms is somewhat of a nard, because the farther you get down into local politics, the less that the party platform really bears on that person. And then you're going to be, it depends on where you live, you're going to have this circumstance. Let's say, for example, I lived in New York. Nobody in the Republican Party is going to run for anything. So your real elections are in the primaries. And so now what you're doing is you're voting for, a perfect example is Los Angeles with the current mayor versus the guy who was running against her. Caruso was running against Bass. Caruso was really a Republican and Democrat close because he knew he couldn't run as a Republican and win in Los Angeles County. Or Los Angeles City. There's no way that could happen. So I may find myself in a situation where the only candidates that I can vote for are Democrats.
That have a chance of winning.
And that have a chance of winning.
Our daughter and son-in-law have that same scenario in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah,
correct.
They both registered as Democrats because to vote in the Republican primary is kind of pointless.
It's not so far removed. This is a circumstance right now going on in Gwinnett County because Gwinnett has gone completely blue. A lot of the Republican politicians said, I either just get out of politics altogether and have no influence whatsoever, or I go Democrat and run and try to primary out this person whom I
wolf in sheep's clothing tactic, kind of.
Yeah.
But like you say, you have to. The Democratic Party, particularly, is very strict on enforcing adherence to their platform. But you don't really get to that level until you get to national election levels, like Congress people and senators.
Well, and I think even higher state,
or higher state,
levels, state Senate, you're going to get into a lot of trouble if you try to.
You can't buck the.
You can't play that.
You can't be pro-life, for example.
But in school boards and city councils, I had no problem with that.
So what is your opinion on, okay, that neither of these is acceptable, I just shouldn't vote at all? I mean, is that a legitimate?
I don't think that we as Christians have the right to not vote at all. I think it's our responsibility to vote and to vote the lesser of two evils in that case.
So would option be to write in a name?
Write in a name if you think there's somebody better, or vote for a third party if you think that the third party is better. There's always going to be somebody who's the lesser of two evils. Not voting at all, I think, abdicates your responsibility.
Yeah, I write in Ken's name regularly.
And that would be the lesser of all evils.
Yeah. Let's go. Good stuff.